I woke up because something felt wrong. Not pain. Not fear. Just absence. My head felt lighter. Too light. For a second, I thought I was still dreaming. I reached up, half asleep, fingers moving automatically through the space where my hair always was, where it had always been since I was a teenager. My fingers touched skin. Bare. Uneven. Wrong. I sat up so fast the room spun. My phone was on the nightstand. The screen lit up as I grabbed it, hands shaking, front camera opening before I even thought about it. The girl staring back at me didn't look like me. My hair, my long, thick hair that had taken years to grow, was gone. Not cut neatly. Not styled. Hacked. Cropped so close to my scalp that patches looked lighter than others, as if someone hadn't even bothered to finish properly. I stared. I touched it again. I pressed my palm flat against my head like that would undo it. It didn't. My breath came out in short, sharp bursts. I tried to think logically. Tried to remember if I had done something stupid. A prank. A drunken decision. But I hadn't gone out. I hadn't drunk anything. I had gone to bed early. Because the next day was my sister's wedding. I threw the blanket back and stood up, legs weak, heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. I ran to the bathroom, turned on the light, and looked again in the mirror. There was no misunderstanding. Someone had cut my hair while I slept. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there, staring at myself, trying to understand how something like this could happen inside the same house I had lived in my whole life. I opened the door and walked down the hallway. The house was quiet. Too quiet. My parents' bedroom door was closed. My sister's door was open, wedding dress bag hanging on the outside like a trophy. I knocked. No answer. I knocked harder. Still nothing. I pushed the door open. My sister was sitting on her bed, already awake, phone in her hand, scrolling. She looked up when she saw me. And smiled. Not surprised. Not confused. Smug. You saw it, she said. My throat felt tight. What did you do? She shrugged. I didn't. That answer told me everything. I turned and walked straight to my parents' room and opened the door without knocking. My mom was sitting up in bed. My dad was beside her, arms crossed, jaw tight. They looked prepared. Like they had been waiting. My mom spoke first. Before you say anything, she said calmly, we need to talk. My voice came out hoarse. Who cut my hair? She didn't hesitate. I did. The room tilted. Why? I asked. She sighed, the way she always did when she thought I was being unreasonable. Because it wasn't fair. That word landed harder than the scissors ever had. Fair? I repeated. My dad finally spoke. Your sister's wedding is today. It's her moment. You know how people are. I laughed once. It came out broken. People are going to stare at her because of my hair? My mom shook her head. No. They're going to compare you. They always do. I stared at them. So your solution was to ruin me? My mom's expression hardened. We didn't ruin you. We balanced things. Balanced. I felt something inside me go very still. She's always been sensitive about her looks, my dad added. You know that. And I'm not? I asked. My sister appeared in the doorway then, arms folded, perfectly styled, perfectly calm. She's right, she said. It wouldn't have been fair if you looked better than me on my wedding day. I looked at her. Really looked. And in that moment, something snapped, not loudly, not violently, but cleanly. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't panic. This wasn't a bad decision made in stress. This was planned. My mom had waited until I was asleep. She had taken scissors. She had decided, without asking, that my body was a problem to be fixed. And she had slept just fine afterward. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I didn't even argue. I just said, "You cut my hair without my consent." My mom waved her hand dismissively. "You'll grow it back." My sister rolled her eyes. "Stop being dramatic." That was the moment I realized something important. They weren't afraid of me being hurt. They were afraid of me being seen. And that meant they had underestimated me in a way they would never recover from. I didn't go back to my room. I stood there for a few seconds longer, letting their words settle, watching their faces for any sign of doubt or regret. There was none. My mom looked relieved, like a difficult task had finally been completed. My dad looked firm, convinced he had made the right call. My sister looked satisfied in a quiet, poisonous way, like someone who had finally removed a threat. That was when I understood something that hurt more than the scissors ever could. They didn't see me as a daughter. They didn't see me as a sister. They saw me as competition. I turned and walked away before they could say anything else. Not because I was done, but because I needed to be alone with what I was feeling before I decided what to do with it. Back in my room, I locked the door and sat on the edge of the bed. My hands were shaking now. Not from fear. From control. I picked up my phone again and opened the camera, forcing myself to look at my reflection one more time. The shock was still there, but something else had joined it. Clarity. They had taken something from me because they believed it was theirs to take. Because they believed I would accept it. Because history had taught them that I always did. I scrolled through my contacts and stopped at one name. Not family. Not friends. Someone I trusted because they didn't love me. Because they respected me. I sent one text. "I need a favor. Today." The reply came almost instantly. "Anything." I exhaled slowly. Downstairs, the house had come alive. Hairdryers. Laughter. Music playing too loudly. My sister's bridal party had started to arrive, filling the space with excitement that felt obscene. I didn't go down. Instead, I showered, dressed, and packed a small bag. Not because I was running away, but because I was choosing distance. When I finally walked downstairs, everyone stopped talking. They looked at me like they expected something. A breakdown. A plea. A tantrum. I gave them none of it. "I'm not going to the wedding," I said calmly. My mom frowned. "Don't be ridiculous." "I'm serious." My sister scoffed. "You can't just not come." "I can," I said. "And I am." My dad stepped forward. "You're overreacting. This is one day." "So was last night," I replied. "And you chose to hurt me." My mom crossed her arms. "You're being selfish." I nodded slowly. "That's new for me. I'm trying it out." Her mouth opened, then closed. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. "You'll regret this," my sister said behind me. I stopped, turned around, and looked at her. "No," I said. "You will." I left before she could respond. I didn't cry in the car. I didn't scream. I drove. I drove until the house was far behind me, until the noise in my head quieted enough for me to think clearly. And as I drove, I replayed every moment of my life where I had made myself smaller to keep the peace. Every compliment that came with a condition. Every achievement that had been minimized. Every time I had been told to be understanding. I had been understanding my entire life. And all it had earned me was this. By the time I reached my destination, my phone was buzzing non-stop. Missed calls. Messages. Voice notes filled with frustration and guilt dressed up as concern. I ignored them all. The person I was meeting didn't ask questions. They didn't offer sympathy. They listened. And when I finished explaining everything, they said exactly what I needed to hear. "This isn't about hair," they said. "This is about control." I nodded. "And control only works," they continued, "when you let people believe you won't do anything about it." That night, while my sister walked down the aisle surrounded by smiles and applause, I sat in a quiet room and began laying out a plan. Not for revenge fueled by rage, but for consequences built on truth. Because if my family believed they could shape me into whatever made them most comfortable, they were about to learn how wrong they were. I didn't know how the wedding went. Not because I didn't want to know, but because I refused to ask. I spent that evening in silence, not the empty kind, but the heavy, deliberate kind where every thought lines up clearly. The kind of silence where you finally stop explaining yourself to people who never listened. Late that night, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from my aunt. "Your sister looked beautiful today," it read. But everyone kept asking where you were. I stared at that line for a long time. They noticed. Of course they did. I didn't reply. The next morning, I woke up early. For the first time since the night before, I touched my hair without flinching. It still felt strange, unfamiliar, but no longer humiliating. It was evidence. And evidence has power. I met with the person I'd contacted the day before. A lawyer I'd worked with years ago when I helped her on a project. She didn't look at me with pity. She looked at me with focus. "What happened to you," she said calmly after I finished, "meets the definition of assault." I swallowed. "They're my family." She nodded. "That doesn't change consent." The word hit harder than anything else. Consent. Something so simple. Something they had never even considered. We talked for hours. About options. About documentation. About consequences. Not revenge, not destruction, but accountability. I didn't have to do anything immediately. I just needed to understand what could be done. And once you understand that, you stop feeling powerless. By the time I got home that evening, the house was quiet again. The decorations were still up, half-deflated balloons sagging in the corners like the aftermath of something that had already peaked. My mom was in the kitchen. She turned when she saw me, relief flashing across her face. "There you are," she said. "You caused quite a scene yesterday." I set my bag down slowly. "I wasn't there." She waved her hand. "Your absence was the scene." I nodded. "Good." She frowned. "You embarrassed your sister." I met her eyes. "You cut my hair while I was asleep." Her jaw tightened. "We've been over this." "No," I said quietly. "You've dismissed it." "That's different." My dad entered the room then, tired, irritated. "We don't need this again." "I do," I replied. My sister appeared behind him, makeup gone, confidence dulled but not erased. She crossed her arms. "Are you done being dramatic now?" I looked at her head on. "Do you know what consent is?" I asked. She blinked. "What? Do you know what assault is?" I continued. My mom's face changed. "Don't start throwing words around." "I'm not throwing anything," I said. "I'm naming it." Silence fell. "I spoke to a lawyer today," I added calmly. My dad stiffened. "You did what?" "I spoke to a lawyer," I repeated. "Not because I want to destroy this family. But because you all decided my body was something you could manage." My mom laughed nervously. "You're not serious." "I am," I said. "Very." My sister's voice dropped. "You wouldn't." "I already did." For the first time since the night before, I saw fear flicker across her face. Not because she felt guilty. Because she realized I wasn't small anymore. I'm not filing anything right now, I continued. But I needed you to understand something. I looked at each of them in turn. You don't get to touch me without my consent. You don't get to hurt me and call it fair. And you don't get to decide who I am to make yourselves comfortable. My mom's voice shook. We did what we thought was best. No, I said. You did what was easiest for you. No one argued that. I picked up my bag again. I'm leaving, I said. Not forever. But long enough for you to understand that I won't accept this treatment anymore. My dad opened his mouth, then closed it. My sister looked away. As I walked out, I felt lighter, not because something had been taken from me, but because something had been returned. My agency. My voice. My self-respect. Weeks passed. No apologies came. Only silence. And for the first time, that silence felt honest. I grew my hair out slowly. Not to look like my old self, but to remind myself that what they tried to take didn't define me. And one day, much later, my mom called. Her voice was different. Careful. We were wrong, she said. I didn't rush to answer. I know, I replied. And for the first time, the word fair finally meant something else.